made contact and shattered.
At some point, Chris locates what's called a dry bag.
Law enforcement had considered Laundrie the only person of interest in the murder of his fiancée, Gabby Petito.
Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Hello? John.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here for another ATS live stream. I'm Amber. ATS stands for Amber Truth Seeker, in case you guys are new here. And it's also extremely cloudy here in New York, so the lighting is not the best here in the morning. I sneak down to the kitchen area while the little one's sleeping, so I'm not in my office with the studio lighting, but I really appreciate you guys joining me for our morning coffee and true crime talks. So thanks for being here. And hello, everybody in chat. I already glanced over and seen people telling, or Florida Bass Fishing saying it's 80 degrees here in Florida. I think Melmac said sunny here in North Carolina. Guys, just rubbing it in on me. But, oh, sunny in Houston. Well, I'm so glad you guys are here with me today. And good morning, Twisted Gemini, and everyone else who has joined us. Good morning, Delana. So thank you, everyone, for joining the chat. And as we start, people start joining us, I figured I would pull this up real quick. Now, this isn't new information, really. Apparently, they've updated the timeline from Ethan and Xana, but they had just updated it on the Moscow police website. So let me just read this little updated timeline. So it says, updated investigation. On the evening of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison were at a local bar called Corner Club on 202 North Main Street in downtown Moscow between 10 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. On November 13th at around 1:40 a.m., Kaylee and Madison were seen on video at a local food vendor truck called the Grub Truck. It says they used a private party for a ride home from downtown to arrive at their 1122 King Road residence at 1:56 a.m. So it says arrival time has been updated based on digital evidence collected by investigators. So they also have said investigators have determined that Ethan and Xana were seen at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus at 1:45 a.m. Ethan and Xana are believed to have returned to the residence. It was previously reported that Ethan resided at the home. However, it has been determined that he was only visiting. So previously, they had said that everybody was home by 1:45. It looks like the website and just from information being updated through digital evidence, they are officially updating it to 1:56 a.m. Kaylee and Madison arrived home, and now they are officially saying that they have reason to believe, due to the investigation, that Ethan and Xana were still at the Sigma Chi house at 1:45. So they have evidence that has placed them in those areas, and then Ethan and Xana apparently went home. But at 1:45, they're around the Sigma Chi area and then believed to have returned to the residence. So just want to clarify that and kind of give a little bit of an update, because I know that before they had reported that Kaylee and Maddie had made it home at 1:45, and so did Ethan and Xana. Apparently they're saying, just to get the time frame a little more exact, it's 1:56 that they were dropped off at the residence. So that is Kaylee and Madison's updated timeline a bit. So, all right, now that I've gotten that out of the way, and I just wanted to get that clarified and just ironed out, because I know that in other live streams I had on there that Xana and Madison had made it home at 1:45, as well as Ethan and Xana. So now things are getting a little bit updated. So that really doesn't give us more room. I just feel like there's still gaps in the timeline. I don't know how you guys are feeling about that. So what I put together here in this live stream is just some highlights from the stuff that was going on over the weekend, as far as Idaho State Police making a few statements. I've taken some highlights out of that interview. It's not the complete interview, guys. What I like to do is just pick the main parts, the things that stick with me. And then if you guys notice anything else, let me know, and I'll look at that too. It does help if you guys give me a timestamp too. So if you're trying to point me in a direction of an interview, give me the timestamp too. I also have edited in highlights from the FBI, CIA, former FBI CIA woman who went on News Nation. There's also former FBI retired agents that are in the stream also giving their commentary. And then, of course, I added in Kaylee's father, Steve, who has been making more statements over the weekend as well. Again, they're not the entire interviews. I've clipped out the little tidbits that I think are significant. So I hope you I hope you like what I put together for you. And yes, hit the like button if you haven't done so already. And I see everyone is joining chat. So thank you for being here, Che Benet, and everyone else allegedly with Brittany J. And that's the thing that I wanted to say also, just in regards to creators that have been checking out my channel and I go into their streams, etc. I've just been a little bit busy. So if you haven't seen me in your streams, and this goes out to more than just allegedly with Brittany J's, I like to pop in a lot of people's streams. So if you haven't seen me or have been MIA, I've just been a little bit busy behind the scenes with a little one was sick this weekend too. So I just wanted to say everyone's doing a great job covering this. I know that there's been a lot of mixed information, but I think that the community has done a really good job to kind of iron out statements that have been updated, etc. So with that being said, let's get into this. Like I said, it's just some clipped highlights. It's around 20 something minutes. We'll play it through, and then I just want to go through a court TV segment. It's a few days old. I think it's around 5 days old at this point, but you guys know that we love Vinny here, and he does a really good job with these stories. So good morning, Marshall Dove. Just saw you pop in before I started playing this, and Craig G. Everyone else who have joined, thanks for being here. Let me play this. I'll be in chat commenting with you guys, and I can pull up your comments on the screen while this plays as well. So once again, thank you for being here. Hit the like. Good morning, everybody who has joined, and let's get going with this, okay?
Ultimately, there is a person or persons that is in either our community or someone else's community who's committed 4 murders. And so people need to be alert and aware. So the other day, we extended the crime scene. Really what we did is we just enlarged the working area for the detectives and the investigators that are actually on scene. As we have more and more information, we're able to try and piece together what occurred. When we do that, we want to go out to the scene and see how that fits in. And so it wasn't really an evidence collection situation. It was purely a workspace situation. We wanted to make sure that we held the integrity of the investigation, which is important, and so we're not enlarging and retracting the crime scene per se. We know that the Moscow Police Department arrived on scene. They essentially saw what had occurred. They locked it down, and then additional resources came in. We have a lot of the best technology, the latest and greatest as far as training goes. So indeed, I believe in the integrity of this investigation. Been very consistent, and we have said that we do not have a suspect and we do not have a person of interest at this time. We are building, again, as you mentioned before, building a profile, we're building a picture, we're trying to put all the pieces together, and when the time comes, we will most definitely put that information out.
I also wanted to say, guys, that I've edited in a new article that came out late last night that I read. So some of this is clips like I had stated, and then also it'll be me pre-recorded reading of some newer articles that came out over the weekend. Again, it's not really anything like significant because obviously no breaks in the case have really taken place, but there were just some interesting stuff that I was hoping you guys would like. So once again, thank you for watching and being here. And Pam, thank you so much. The little one's feeling much better. So as soon as her fever was over with, I think that we were in the clear. So she's still sleeping, luckily. Idaho State Police have slammed the rumors being spread about the deaths of the 4 university students who were found brutally murdered off campus earlier this month, as the investigation into their death enters a second consecutive week without any suspects. Aaron Snell, the communications director of the Idaho State Police, said the rampant speculation about the murders does a disservice to the families and to the community because it puts out additional information that hasn't been vetted. Ultimately, detectives on the scene have information. The people that are working this case from all 3 agencies are the best and the brightest, and they have the most up-to-date resources. But residents in the college town of Moscow, Idaho remain on edge as no new information about the student's death have been released, and authorities have admitted they do not have a suspect and have not even retrieved the murder weapon. Law enforcement officials now say they are withholding details in an effort to catch the killer. They say they are not releasing a profile of the suspect because it could lead to more fear and suspicion in the college town, as students at the University of Idaho are already looking to stay home and take online classes while the case remains unsolved. It will potentially put more fear, more suspicion on a wide variety of people versus if we use that to really refine where we're at in our investigation. And so if we just provide information to the public, I just don't think that's what's going to be a wise choice. Still, Aaron Snell said police have been able to disprove some of the theories that have been circulating about the students' deaths and were able to rule out some suspicious individuals. At one point, we heard that the victims were bound and gagged. We were able to successfully say, no, that's not indeed accurate. And so we're trying to put out that information. An autopsy on the students' bodies found that they had multiple stab wounds and some had defensive wounds. Police also shot down the possibility that the quadruple murder was tied to other knife stabbings in Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, despite announcing last week that they were probing a possible link between the students' deaths and a similar case in Oregon, where a husband and wife were stabbed in their beds by a crazed lunatic last year. We don't believe at this time these murders are actually linked to 2 other knife murders that have occurred in Washington as well as Oregon. Aaron Snell said, noting that police are aware of these various reports and looked into them. Again, that's part of the investigation, he said. We have excellent investigators on the case, so we get critiqued by people that don't have knowledge on the specific case. And Aaron Snell denied a dog found skinned had any connection to the murders as well. Cops have also made it clear the other surviving roommates are not believed to be involved in the crime at this time also, despite the fact a friend used their cell phones to call 911 that morning. Police said they received a call about an unconscious person just before noon that day, when a friend thought at least one of the victims had passed out and would not wake up. They are now refusing to release the 911 call, in which the dispatcher spoke to multiple people and have said that they found no evidence that Kaylee had a stalker. Kaylee's father is asking for the public's help in helping solve his daughter's murder. Kaylee had spent much of the night before her death at the Corner Club, a Moscow dive bar popular with students, with Madison, with whom she had been friends with since high school. At around 1:30 a.m., the pair were caught on camera purchasing a portion of carbonara pasta from the grub truck. Madison and Kaylee were last glimpsed walking away towards what police have called a private party driver for their final ride home. The route takes less than 5 minutes to complete and cuts through the University of Idaho campus and passes the Sigma Chi house on the right, where Xana and Ethan spent their last night before taking a left up King Road towards their home. Kaylee's dog Murphy survived the attack unscathed and didn't make a sound. Police have asked for video from neighborhoods backing on the property, suggesting they believe the killer entered and exited at the back of the house before escaping up the hill, but in a twist that adds to the mystery of what happened to them. Neighbors living in the homes whose property would have been part of the escape route on foot said they heard and seen nothing. One neighbor told the media that police had been to her home and asked for video, but said all was quiet on the night the students died. She said, "We didn't hear a thing. Our neighbors have a dog who barks, and he would have woken us up if he saw anything. He didn't bark." Moscow Police Department have found themselves under increasing pressure to produce answers into the brutal slayings of 4 students as some of them slept, including why 911 was only called 9 hours later. Officials who raced to the 6-bedroom property initially claimed that there was no wider threat to the public, a statement they retracted 3 days after the incident, and have failed to make a single arrest. Kaylee was one of the 4 students brutally knifed to death. Her parents say police told them the crime scene will take a lot of time to process, and the killer was sloppy. Kaylee's roommates Madison and Xana were also stabbed to death on November 13th, and Xana's freshman boyfriend Ethan was also killed. Cops were quick to claim the scene of the complex and terrible crime was the most horrific they've ever seen, with blood oozing out of the walls, despite the fact the 911 call claimed that there was somebody unconscious. Questions continue to mount about the unsolved quadruple murders, which appears to have cops stumped as they scramble for more information. Last week, Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson said Thanksgiving break had hampered the investigation because many potential witnesses are students who have already left the small college town. Moscow Police Department Chief James Fry said that more than 640 tips had been received and investigated in his statement on Sunday. And now, more than 2 weeks after the murders, police are asking residents and local businesses to scour their CCTV footage between 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. the night of the murders. It is unclear why it took so long for them to narrow down these areas of interest. Here are just a few of the burning questions cops need to answer as the killer remains on the streets. Why did cops initially tell residents that there was no threat to the community? How did several friends inside the house not hear or see anything? Why did it take 9 hours after the murders for the 911 call to be placed? How did 2 surviving roommates not wake up during the horrific murders? Why did Moscow police initially believe they were called because somebody was unconscious? Why did it take more than a week for cops to appeal for CCTV footage? How did authorities fail to search a dumpster outside the home? At least 4 people have been ruled out as the potential killer. Why have there been no arrests or suspects named? So another thing that I wanted to kind of take note on, and thanks everyone who has joined us. Somebody, Candace, thank you for being here. It's okay that you're late. You really didn't miss much, but since you joined, it just reminded me of something that we didn't touch on in that beginning thing that I was reading off, the update from the Moscow police website. Something that I noticed at the bottom of it, and I'm pulling it up on my phone. So this is the update. I read a little bit of it in the beginning of the stream, and I actually have this pulled up on the stream. I'm just going to leave the screen paused for a minute and just kind of talk to you guys about this. So I'm not going to pull it up on the screen, but something that I found curious, and we've heard all weekend long that they are asking neighbors and anybody who has, dash cam footage or CCTV footage, doorbell, ring camera footage from the hours of 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., right? They're also looking for CCTV footage from areas around the Sigma Chi house as well as the corner bar downtown. But what I think is interesting is at the bottom it says, okay, detectives are also seeking additional tips and surveillance video of any unusual behavior on the night of November 12th into the early hours of November 13th. And then it goes on to, say downtown in the Sigma Chi house, and it says, anyone who observed unusual behavior near these areas or has video is asked to submit their tips. Now, what I find interesting about that is, it's almost suggesting that people should expect to see somebody acting unusual. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is We've also heard them use the phrase crime of passion, which obviously indicates a situation where, you know, it wasn't really planned, but you just got so heated and mad that something set you off, the rage, and then you acted out, right? So, like, I think that it's been a possibility that, okay, was there an argument that took place? Was there a fight that took place and, you know, people backed other people in the fight, so somebody was mad, you know what I mean? But now that I'm reading this, and it says right on the Moscow website, you know, and they've stated, you know, why would we be looking for somebody observing? Why would we be looking for people with unusual behavior? That almost makes it seem like that it would be something that was already like planned way ahead of time. So it wasn't something that like broke out at the house afterwards and they got in an argument or something. Do you know what I'm saying, guys? Like, do you feel what avenue I'm going down? So the Moscow police is basically saying, like, you know, you might see some unusual behavior on your CCTV footage. Let us know, bring it in. And, you know, that sounds like a great thing to say to the public and for asking the public for help. But when I'm thinking about the situation, it makes me think, like, what do they know about the situation? Like, are they expecting somebody to have been acting unusual on camera? Like, did something lead up to this murder where they're saying, like, well, they must have been somewhere acting this way, or maybe somebody saw them behaving this way? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Oh, it seems like chat is understanding me. I just find it interesting that they want the public's help, which is obvious, but the fact that they're saying, like, you might see somebody on your camera or you might have seen somebody acting unusual, to me it makes it seem like, okay, so then this wasn't something that just like happened, like spur of the moment, like, you know, like, because why would somebody be acting unusual on camera somewhere prior to the murders if it was like a crime of passion, you know, like they had an argument or something, you know what I mean? Like, even if it was a texting argument, it seems like they're trying to say, like, whoever this is may have been seen on camera acting unusual, which means that this wasn't something that just like broke out in private or something. I don't know. What do you guys think about my thoughts there? Let me continue with this, but I did want to just stop and kind of just explain that a little bit and ask your guys' opinion, because somebody who gets in an argument with somebody, or somebody who freaks out and is in like a crime of passion or in like a rage, you know, they might be seen on camera hours prior or around that time acting totally normal because the fight hadn't happened yet or the confrontation hadn't happened yet. So to me, I find it very interesting that the Moscow police is saying, like, any unusual behavior, let us know. And it's like, what would this murderer have been seen doing? I don't know. I just feel like that's an interesting thing to kind of ask the public to look out for. It just kind of leads me to think, okay, so then can we narrow down this was like an argument that was like heated, just right on the spot? Yeah, Craig G, if you see someone sneaking around dressed in all black at 3 a.m., let us know. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been a hell of an argument to murder 4 people. I don't know. I just think it's strange that they're saying that you might see somebody on camera acting unusual. And they're not even saying just after the murders, guys. They're saying like throughout the night. So what exactly was this perpetrator doing? Like, what do they assume that they were doing in a way? You know what I mean? That they're asking the public to look out for unusual behavior. Good morning, CDT. Good to see you. I hope you're having a good morning thus far. So yeah, I am hearing rumors about a masked man. And while we're talking about rumors, has anyone heard the rumor about a red Mustang being searched with the forensics team? Because I heard that, I saw a picture of it, but I didn't add it in the stream because I just have not heard anything about it. So it's just kind of gossip going around that there was a red Mustang being canvassed by the forensics team, but I don't know if it's related. So I just want to stick that there.
4 plans of the off-campus house where 4 Idaho college students were brutally stabbed to death show where each of the 6 friends were sleeping while the slayings took place. Records of the schematics of the property at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, show the layout of the building and each bedroom where the 4 victims were brutally and fatally stabbed. The 3-story home has 2 bedrooms on each floor. Kaylee and Madison were allegedly found on the top floor. The young college lovers Ethan and Xana were found in the front 2nd floor bedroom. Their surviving roommates were home at the time of the slaying, slept on the 1st floor. This floor sits below grade and opens onto a gravel parking lot in the front of the building.
I do want to pause it here and just say that this article is stating as if the people were found in their bedrooms that, is their original bedrooms now that they always reside in. As far as I know, and I'm sure chat can let me know, and those on replay let me know, they have not given us a specific on who was sleeping where, besides the fact that we just assume Ethan and Xana were together. I know that there's been talk of the coroner stating that some people weren't in their resided bedrooms, but I haven't seen her say that. I've just seen that, and we'll look at it here. I've just heard the former CIA, FBI agent state that the coroner stated that people were in their rooms that were not their original residing bedrooms. Now, I don't know if that's true, because here we have this article that I'm reading, and it's stating that everyone was in their regular bedrooms, but Ethan was not residing there. He didn't live there. He was just staying there. Then we heard the coroner come out and say, well, not all of them were in their bed. So people have said that they heard Ethan was in the hallway or on the floor, etc. I just think it's interesting that police have not specifically said where everybody was, but there seems to be chatter going around that they were here and they were there. But as far as I know, we actually don't have an exact layout of where they were sleeping. We have the layout of where their bedrooms were. And we know that Ethan didn't actually live there. He was just staying there. But I'm just confused where the coroner was stated that some were sleeping in beds that weren't their bedroom. Now, that is only stated by the former FBI agent, which we'll see after I read this. But I don't know. If you guys can point me in the direction where the coroner stated that some were sleeping in beds that weren't their bedroom, please let me know, because I've had a hard time finding it. And you guys know that I clipped the coroner's statements in our previous live stream, so it wasn't in there.
Cops remain baffled and have appealed to the public for help in solving the brutal murders, with experts warning the blood-soaked crime scene represents a major challenge as they hunt for the killer's DNA. At the press conference on Wednesday, police refused to say which order they believe the murders were committed. Because the 2 women who slept on the 1st floor were untouched by the killer, it is believed that assailant went through the sliding glass door that leads onto the patio to the kitchen on the 2nd floor.
Yeah, CDT is on the same page. She said, same, I want to know where and when the coroner said that. It is frustrating she stated that, and we have not heard it from the source. Yeah, and I don't know if that former agent talked to the coroner, behind closed doors before the interview or what, but I wish that would be clarified, because I'm almost wondering if maybe that agent interpreted the fact that Ethan didn't live there, but was there as the same, that I don't know, guys. I'm just very confused by that. I think, yeah, Brittany said, I think the coroner redacted that they were all in their beds, not so much about the rooms. Yeah, I showed that in the last stream, that on the 19th, she came out and made a different statement than her previous one, stating, well, not all of them were in their bedrooms. But I don't know anything about her stating that they weren't in their original rooms or whatever. Either way, I think that that's information that they're keeping close to the vest, because that's prime information about the crime scene that only the killer would know. So I don't know. There is a lot of rumors going around, and I'm trying my best to iron it out. So I appreciate you guys helping me out there. And the thing is too, if the girls were sleeping in the same bedroom, was it something that is just, like we all do, fall asleep with your friends sometimes. You're drinking or whatever, and you're watching a movie, or you just pass out. and that's where you fall asleep? Was it something like that? Or was it something where if the girls were bedding together, was it something like they were afraid, or, somebody said like, you better sleep with one eye open, something like that. You know what I mean? So then they thought like, well, you can sleep in with me tonight if you want. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm curious about that. I just really want to know those details. But yeah, the coroner is not a medical examiner, and she's not a detective either. And I had seen that she had been stating some things that were supposed to be statements that I think law enforcement were supposed to use. But it is what it is. She's come out and said things, and I've tried to iron out her statements. So I appreciate your guys' help doing that as well. So once again, thank you guys for joining me today, and thanks for being here. Please give us a like if you haven't done so already, and let me continue this pre-recording. And then, like I said, it'll go into the highlighted interviews this weekend with Idaho State Police, Kaylee's father, and the former FBI agent and former FBI CIA agent. So stay with me, guys.
The floor layout shows the murderer would have taken a winding route through the kitchen and foyer into the living room. From there, the killer could have climbed the steps onto the top floor and attacked Kaylee in the front bedroom and Madison in the back, or walked through the laundry room, which leads to the room where Ethan and Xana slept. The building schematic shows. A TikTok video of Kaylee dancing with the curly-haired pooch called Murphy shows her in the top floor bedroom with balcony where the attack occurred. There have been no reports of the dog confronting the killer or being injured during the murders. Police reported that 2 of the victims likely fought back and suffered defensive wounds trying to ward off the slasher. The house is close to the University of Idaho campus. When it was last up for rent, it was described as one of the top campus housing options available. Sought after location within close walking, biking, and driving distance to the campus in Greek Row. The agent added, ideal setup for the roommates with 2 beds, 1 bath on each level. The ad also said, sorry, no pets allowed. New details have now emerged that Kaylee and Madison's last night out from Joe V., a local man who saw the 2 co-eds out on the town and just hours before the attack. Police had previously said that the women were partying at the Corner Club bar the night before the attack. Joe was also there and said that the women were catching the attention of many men at the bar. A lot of guys were talking to them at the Corner Club, adding that Kaylee was visibly drunk. The taller girl with the pink on, she was glass-eyed. I audibly said ew out loud, and she just stumbled through. He said he left the Corner Club ahead of the girls and was with a neighbor who had just moved to Moscow, showing her the Grub Bus, a food truck popular with students and the late-night munchies. I was just there waiting because the Grub Bus takes forever when a bunch of drunk zombies show up. There, he said, noting he was 100% sober. That's when the women showed up with the guy in the hoodie. Police have not named the man, but have said that he's not considered to be involved at this time. Joe said, I saw the hoodie guy show up with them. The vibe I got from him is that he's super nice. He was trying to help them get home safe. Joe said people were talking and chatting, waiting for their food orders. Kaylee and Madison were hanging around the truck window, hounding people who were picking up their orders. He said it was then that a dark 4-door sedan showed up. A guy got out and yelled, hurry up. I saw them get into the car and it looked like they just ditched him. I said, bro, they're leaving. He said, what the F? I said, sorry, brother. The day after the news broke of the murders, Joe V realized that he had some information that police could use in the investigation, so he reached out to the authorities. The only thing that I was able to do is verify the timeline and tell police that they got into the car. The driver is another one who police believe is not involved at this time.
I think the reality is we may actually.
I wonder if Joe V is just looking for his 15 minutes of fame, but I don't know. Yeah, because that article, I skipped through a lot of it because I was just like, what? I don't know. I don't know if I trust Joe V or what his angle is. But here's a former FBI CIA special agent, and she's going to mention something about the coroner, stating that everyone wasn't in their original bedrooms or whatever. So like I said, I don't know if she's referring to Ethan, who didn't actually live there, or what. But I'll pull up while she, again, this isn't the regular News Nation clip. I try to transform and change things up for you guys. So it's not going to be her face. It's going to be the coroner's most recent statement that I could find. If anyone else can find another one, please let me know.
Have a suspect. However, law enforcement wants to ensure that they have all of the evidence in place, because to Kaylee's father's point, there is a lot of evidence and there is a lot of leads that they have. And the reality is it takes a long time to comb through all of that forensic evidence. No matter how high profile this case is, you have biological evidence, you have digital evidence, you have all of that evidence that has to be poured through and has to be done so systematically. So I obviously do not know if they actually have a suspect, but law enforcement may have their sights set on someone at this point. You know, I think a lot of times we take safety for granted, and a lot of times we leave doors open at all hours of the night. I don't necessarily know that that was unusual in this place. From what I understand from interviews that I've seen, this was sort of your typical college, I guess, party house, if you will, and people came in and out really at all hours of the night. And so I suspect that whomever came in entered on sort of that second floor, or the first floor, I guess, if you're looking at ground level, first floor and then second floor, through that sliding glass door that you see a lot of times in the news clips. And so I don't make too much of it in that many people do not lock their doors.
Yeah, and we know that the FBI, when asking for the public's help, mentioned 2 locations they're particularly interested in: downtown Moscow and then the Sigma Chi house as well. Can you tell us what type of evidence would be on this digital link, and what specifically are they going to be looking for as they comb through those files?
So what that sounds to me is that the FBI is actually working backwards, which makes a whole lot of sense, retracing movements backwards from when they entered the home, from when the victims entered the home, to where they really spent sort of the last hours of their evening. So really what they're looking for is Ring doorbell cameras. And to take that one step farther, they're not just looking at the Sigma Chi house or just at a specific place in downtown Moscow. They are probably looking at Ring cameras throughout the location, leading them all the way back to the house where the murder happened. So that way they can see what cars are coming in and out, what people are coming out in and out on foot. I mean, we have to remember, folks who just lived a baseball throw, away from this house said that they didn't hear anything. And so I really think that digital evidence is going to be very critical in retracing the killer's steps backwards. Right. One of the things that I sort of heard mentioned today was from the coroner, in that all of the victims were not necessarily in bed when they were attacked, and all of the victims were not necessarily on their respective floors in the rooms that they slept in. And so I would be interested in terms of following up a little bit more in regards to that. For example, I don't think that this was some kind of a burglary. The killer obviously had intent, and really what's coming more and more, I think, to a head here is that there was some kind of target involved, in that, the killer entered in on that first floor, then went up to the second floor. We know that 2 victims were found on the second floor, 2 victims were found on the first floor, and then the 2 on the ground floor were alive. And I think that is interesting, and that means that someone had to walk up those stairs to intentionally put themselves out there to be potentially caught, or to make a noise to cause someone to stir to look for someone. And so I would really want to know who was on those floors, what were they doing, who were they texting and communicating with, and what were their movements like.
I've heard a little bit of feedback on this, that people are nervous about the timeline. I'm going to tell you guys that there's so much attention on this. If you can share your information, if you can post it, I mean, it's the internet. You can do these things anonymously. Go forward. You don't have, and for those people who are afraid, like maybe I was intoxicated or I'm underage, that's not what they care about, guys. They're not looking at that. That is not going to happen. So give your information, give out that picture, that image, that video, that selfie, whatever it is, give it out, and know that there's zero chance that they're coming to you for, ruining your career or your anything along those lines. They're just looking for data right now, and you could be the key. You might be something that has been overlooked. So I just implore people to come forward, especially when you know you're even close to that timeline, because technology is the only thing that doesn't lie, really. It's just data. And then we can analyze it as a society and determine what it is, but it doesn't lie. It's just simply data. So it's better than an eyewitness. It's better than anything that we can produce. It's right up there with DNA. And I just implore you, sometimes even if you think that selfie has nothing in the background, maybe there's a car that should be there, that somebody said in their alibi, I parked right here next to this tree. And then there's that tree and there's not, your car's not there.
Instincts are telling me that after almost 2 weeks of this investigation being undertaken by the police, the victimology so far, that is the backgrounds of the individual victims, Madison, Ethan, Kaylee, and Xana, have not brought about any fruitful investigative leads for them. And that's bothersome, because automatically you were thinking of an ex-boyfriend or someone that maybe Ethan had a fight with or something like that. But apparently that inner circle has been resolved, or at least no further investigations are involving that. So now the police investigators have to go into the outer perimeter of this investigation, look at pizza delivery people, look at Uber drivers, things like that. So. But that's only if it's a personal connection to this crime. I'm leaning in that direction at this point, but boy, after 2 weeks, you think some lead would have come up. I'm not ruling out the incel factor, that is involuntary celibacy, and that is kind of a subculture within our country of mostly younger men who feel they're not dating the kind of women they would like to date. And while most of them, the vast majority, are not violent, some do have violent ideation, and they do want to carry out threats and actually take actions against people. Is it possible they saw the young women here as Stacy's, that's the nickname for attractive women, or the young man Ethan as a Chad? That's something that I know the profilers and behavioralists are looking into, all the online footprints of those type people. Or could it be a sexual sadist who travels the country and does some of these things elsewhere, including the one in Oregon that we talked about? These are some of the factors that the investigators right now, Rachel, are looking at. I'm certainly leaning towards an adult male. It takes a lot. Shooting someone with a gun is one thing. You pull a trigger and that it's basically over and done with. But a knife wounding with a knife or killing with a knife is a whole different set of physical and emotional reactions. And times that by 4, as we have in this case, and you have a different kind of offender. People for years will say, well, Zodiac and Unabomber are the same people. No, Unabomber was a long-distance killer with the bombs. Zodiac was up close and personal with knives and some weapons. 2 different people. So this person, this offender, has a violent ideation about him. And although the crime itself is not that sophisticated, the 4 corners of the crime itself, let's face it, he used one of the oldest weapons available after a rock and a club that is a sharp or slashing type of instrument. But now, but how he got into the scene, how he perhaps pre-offense behavior was how he explored perhaps the interior of the apartment, or had schematics about it, or actually was in there on other times. And of course, the post-offense behavior, getting away with this crime. He apparently left no fingerprints behind, no blood on his part, and no DNA. And there's some sophistication before and after the crime, even if the violent crime itself lacks some of that therein.
I don't want to talk bad about them, because these are some hard-working individuals, and I'm doomed without them. We're all doomed without them. The fact that we're finding out that there's more than just my daughter and these children that have suffered, it's terrible to think that we can defund these guys. We can't allow these people to just run free. So beyond that, they haven't shared a lot. We have some private detectives that have reached out to us and given us information. We take that with a grain of salt, and we try to be careful. Just today, I reached out to the officers and said, hey, this guy's treated me with respect on the show. I'd like to share some things with him that I found out on my own, and they asked me to not do that. So we're holding our tongue. We're waiting patiently, but we're definitely concerned. Well, we just had a vacation. Law enforcement told me that they were going to drop off a little bit and not to expect the same type of communication that I had gotten before. They passed it on to another person. So basically, long story short, it was Wednesday, 5 p.m. was the last time that they reached out to me. So, yeah, that's rough. They're kind of just telling me that they can't tell me much, which is frustrating to me because I've been very trustworthy. I do know things. I haven't shared things. We're the same family that found the original timeline. We're the same family that broke into the phones. We tried everything in our ability to try to get into this system because a court order is not the fastest thing. So we broke in and we did what we did. We know that we have some family passwords that we all share. So we broke in and we helped them. So it's hard for me to give up as a father my protective ability to other men.
Okay, so that is the ending of my edited compilation. I hope you guys liked that. I took some notes based on some of that information. I was hoping to bounce it off you guys in chat, and for those on replay, you guys as well. And then we'll switch over to Vinny on Court TV and just watch an old Court TV segment on the case as well. So the things that I took notes on was Kaylee's father there said he asked law enforcement if he could provide Fox News with some information because they've been respectful to him and he'd like to help them out with the story that he was going to be on with them. And law enforcement asked him not to do that and basically said that they're holding their tongue. So that to me is another indication that LE has way more information than we think they know, or that the public, has obviously at their grasp. So that's good. Although he did follow it up with he's concerned, because they haven't gotten much more information from them. And they pretty much told him that they're going to be dropping off. Now, them dropping off, I feel like has a lot to do with waiting for DNA to be processed, because even though I didn't clip it in this one, if you guys watch the interview with that Aaron Snell guy, like I clipped a little bit of it, but one of the parts I didn't clip was yes, Brittany, I agree. Law enforcement could be closing in. Yeah, they're just crossing their T's and dotting their I's right now. So they told the family, like, you might not hear from us. Like, they're doing the work. So that's just what I think. I could totally be wrong and off. But what was I getting at? Either way, the other thing that stuck out to me that he had said, that Idaho State Police pretty much said that they, I lost my train of thought there. But Steve's saying that technology doesn't lie is key, because his wife has also said, and we've clipped in other live streams, that they have a lot of evidence and a lot of it is digital. So that's good. That's what it was. Idaho State Police said in that interview that they weren't even done processing DNA and stuff like that. So there were things that they were waiting on with like lab results. And that was stated in that interview with Aaron Snell. But I didn't clip it, but that I know for sure I took notes on. So they are waiting on evidence to be processed. So they're not done. That former CIA FBI agent, the female in the beginning, she pretty much said that she believes it's very possible that they have a suspect, but they just haven't named him to the public. So to me, that kind of backs up our theory also that we've said, like, they got to know something, like enough to say, like, there's no threat to the public. But in the same sense, Idaho State Police was also saying, like, be on the alert, like, don't let your guard down. So it's just very much mixed signals. I feel bad for the community because I'd be on edge. Did you guys notice also that Steve, Kaylee's father, had mentioned that he'd been contacted by private detectives and that he's going to take their information with a grain of salt and that they need to be careful? So I thought that was interesting. I didn't really know what to make of it, because what are the private detectives contacting the family with, like, as far as information? Like, and why would he say, like, we got to take it with a grain of salt? Good morning, Christy B, and everyone else who has joined us. Hi, Moon River. Love that song. So, all right, those were just some of the things that I took notes on. I did think it was noteworthy, and I seen Holly mentioned it in chat that when the father said, you might know something that you don't think that the information you know is pertinent to the case, but it is. Like, you might have seen a car there that, you know, or a car not there where the person said that it was there. You know what I mean? So that car statement, and Holly said the same thing, to me seemed significant. Like, is that like a direct example of something that they have like working against someone? Like, is there a car mixed in where in this investigation that's sort of like a key or something to their investigation? I don't know. It just was interesting to me that he said he used the example of the car. And then, like we had talked about, there's rumors that a red Mustang is seen in the footage at the food truck. And I'd seen floating around the groups that forensics team was like at a red Mustang in Idaho. I don't know, guys. I don't know if it's related, but I do want to just make note of it, you know? And then when we find out information, if it is related or not, I always try to follow it up. Like, I'll say, we talked previously about X, Y, and Z. Well, come to find out, it's not true, or whatever. So, okay, Holly, I think so too. She said, I think they're looking to disprove an alibi. Yeah, and the car was his example, but what if that example is actually like something they really are using against someone? All right, so yeah, they're still asking for CCTV footage from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. That one neighbor that I had read in the most recent article in the beginning of that pre-recorded said that their dog always barks when they hear a noise. That night, the dog didn't bark. So let me just switch up to court TV, and we will watch that. I'm going to switch it up right now, though, because we get to talking. And yeah, actually, while I'm switching screens, that was the other thing I wanted to mention, too, was Brittany had said something about the ladder on the side of the house. Like, maybe it was used to get in, like, to the second story or whatever. Or my thing is, I just want to know, was it ever fingerprinted, which I'm sure it was. Okay, not 1.5. That's a bit too much, but I am going to speed it up to 1.25. We usually watch it at that speed anyways when we do this stuff, so I think it'll be okay. And thank you, everyone, for being here. I hope you have your coffee. I hope you've hit that like and subscribe button. We're very happy to have you here. And yeah, let's just watch this together, guys.
4 college students in their home after a Saturday night out in Moscow, Idaho. 4 students who went to bed not knowing they were about to be murdered. Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan all stabbed multiple times while sleeping in their beds. It's a crime that has terrorized this college town, with many students leaving early for the holiday break and many not planning on returning until the killer is caught. It's a mystery that has tapped local police resources, so now the Idaho State Police and FBI have joined in this investigation. Forensic teams have been inside the home for days and are now scouring the outside of the home, looking for evidence, looking for answers, and looking to bring peace of mind back to the University of Idaho. But there are many questions still.
So yeah, this was reported 5 days ago. I know it's a little bit old, but I have not watched this all the way through. And yes, Mark, thank you for reiterating that. The red Mustang information, guys, is just hearsay. And I know I reiterated that earlier when I had talked about it, but we do need to just make note of it again, that it is just hearsay. There are rumors going around. Same with the mask, somebody being seen in a mask and stuff. That's just hearsay. So, and good morning, Joe. It's good to see you. I love your picture. Is that a boxer?
Unanswered. Who called 911? How could a killer get into the house and escape that crime scene? What have the autopsies revealed? And is there any connection to reports of a skinned dog? Tonight, we are live at the crime scene, digging up the latest information and trying to answer these questions. Panel of experts. I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. The mystery continues tonight out of Moscow, Idaho. 4 college students murdered last weekend. And the big question, obviously, for all of this right now is who did it? Who did it? And that's a loaded question because there's a lot of steps to get to that point. There are so many other unanswered questions, but all of them, as they get answered, will get us closer to answering this question, which is the one, number one, to get that answer for the families, to get some sense of justice and peace of mind for everyone else who's living in this usually safe and quiet college town. If my child was going to school there, I don't know if they'd be returning after Thanksgiving. Now, police have spoken. They're looking for help.
Let me just pause, Vinny, real quick. Mustang may be kind of car the girls got a ride home in. So apparently Joe V, the eyewitness, is stating that they got in a dark sedan, a 4-door one. So not a Mustang. But apparently, through the rumored grapevine, you can see Mustang taillights in the footage at the food truck. Now, I have the food truck video on my channel. I don't know if it's in there yet. I haven't checked. But if you guys see it, let me know or comment in that comment section. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on with the Mustang thing. So it's just rumor for right now. And thanks for being here, Steph. I'm so glad you're a new subscriber.
They're looking for help. They have asked the public for videos, surveillance. They've put out information just trying to jog people's memories or put some relevance on certain times and places if people saw, heard, or noticed anything. And when police are looking for help, that tells me they don't have all the answers. You know, they won't tell us everything that they know. They won't tell us everything they're thinking. They won't tell us everything they suspect. But by asking for more help, more tips, more information, more potential evidence, it tells me they don't have all the answers yet. And they've called in for help from the public and the local police, obviously overwhelmed by the situation on 2 fronts. 1, the investigation. 2, the security of the campus and the students and the residents, not knowing who is responsible for this. Now, the chief spoke at a press conference yesterday and not saying much, not saying a whole lot. A lot of the reporting leading up to this moment were things that we knew or had heard, and he confirmed, which is important. It's very important. Like you hear that, okay, we're hearing reports that this was done or that was done or this was seen or this person said that. When the chief comes out and confirms it, that's important because, okay, now we can put more weight on that information. But it was a very guarded press conference where the chief obviously knew more than he could say, but really wanted to limit the amount of information that was being released. But he did take questions. And there was one reporter who asked the right question to get some information. That was Court TV's Kaylee Painter in the middle of it all. And this is significant because they're not releasing a lot of things. A lot of these cases and investigations, depending on the jurisdiction, the status of the investigation, we will get information, whether it's the public, the family, whomever. Things like 911 calls. But in this case, we know they exist. We just don't know who made them or the circumstances under which they were made. And at the press conference, this issue came up, and Kaylee Painter was asking Chief Fry about it, trying to get some clarification on a really big issue, which is really the beginning of the investigation. Because in most of the crimes that we cover, the investigation begins after a 911 call. Take a listen to this exchange, because this was really the only new information that we learned at yesterday's press conference.
Was there someone there other than the 2 roommates when police responded?
So yeah, I just want to reiterate again for those who are just joining us, this is a 5-day-old report. We haven't really gotten more information since this stuff anyway, so I figured it would be okay to play it. And any new information is in the beginning of the stream. So in case you're looking for that, they did update the timeline, which is explained earlier in the stream. So check that out. And yeah, so I hope you guys don't mind that I'm playing a 5-day-old report, but we just have not gotten more information since.
So will you clarify that for me?
You're not confirming a roommate called 911, but they used the roommate's phone. So was there someone else at the home other than those two roommates?
There was other friends that had arrived at the location.
How many?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure at this time, to be quite honest.
Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter joining us live from the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho. Chanley, great to see you tonight. Let's talk about the 911 call. That's where this whole investigation begins. So let's begin there tonight. What do we know about this call?
Well, we just learned yesterday at that press conference, more people were in this home. Besides those two roommates we've heard about, the police have confirmed they were at the home, but there was a lot of confusion about who called 911 because they would.
So guys, that's a whole thing too, is now that we're on the topic of the 911 call and the title of the stream obviously references the 911 call. Will they ever release the 911 call? They stated, I think it was Idaho State Police or maybe it was Moscow, I can't remember, but some law enforcement agency stated not at this time. So they were asked, will it be released? And they said not at this time. So I was thinking, like, are they going to release it later? You know what I mean? And the fact that we know through Moscow police statements, official reports are saying that 911 dispatch talked to more than, or the operator, I'm sorry, talked to more than one person. So for them to be protecting that 911 call, it's just making my head go crazy, because if there's more than one person on that call, then, you know, I don't know. It's just very much up in the air of why exactly they're protecting that phone call. You know, in other cases, they've protected 911 phone calls, but they've given us the dispatch. The only thing they've given us about the 911 call is it was made inside the home. It was made from a surviving roommate's phone, but the surviving roommate didn't make the call. They summoned friends over to the house before the call was made. And on the call, they stated somebody was unconscious. Is there anything else about the 911 call I'm missing, guys? I'm pretty sure that's all we know about it, and that they are protecting it for the integrity of the investigation. It's just so puzzling, guys. It's really, really like got my mind all over the place. Allegedly with Brittany J. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. I really appreciate you. And if anyone hasn't subscribed to Allegedly with Brittany J, you should definitely subscribe. Check out her channel. She's got great panels and chats and brainstorming over there. A lot of good insight. She brings a lot of good comments to my chat too. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that and the extra support for the channel. All I really do is ask you guys to like the stream and subscribe. But obviously the extra support is much appreciated. So thank you so much, Brittany. I really appreciate you. But yeah, let me just see. I think that's all we know about the 911 call, guys. So I'm hoping, you know, maybe at a future date, they'll give us dispatch, maybe. I mean, what is going on? Some report somewhere said friends had come over to wake someone up for work, but who knows? Yeah, there's been like a lot of questions about who exactly was over there, because then Ethan's parents said that they found out about Ethan's passing through the other two triplets. So somebody must have told Ethan's siblings right away, and then they told their parents. I mean, law enforcement didn't call them. You know, it wasn't anything like that. First responders didn't call Ethan's parents. It was found out through their other children. So for the other children to have found out, you know, were they there? Were they the friends that were summoned over? Or were they friends with the people who were summoned over? You know, so it's just very much up in the air. I don't know.
couldn't say it was a roommate, but we learned it was from a roommate's phone that 911 was called, was placed, and the call came from this home inside the residence. And so we were able to glean from that police chief that more people were there. After the press conference, they sent another press release out to the media, attempting to clarify it some more. Here's what it said. In part, it said, on the morning of November 13th, their surviving roommates summoned friends to the residence because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. At 11:58 a.m., a 911.
And that's interesting, Seattle, Ryan. He said, I would say this was planned. The killer knew that many students would be leaving, that there would be a mass exodus for the holidays. It is interesting timing with Thanksgiving, the break from school. Like you said, a lot of people just leaving and kind of causing chaos. Some people might have already left maybe, or they're just busy with finals or whatever tests were being crammed in before the holiday break. So they're just preoccupied. It's also interesting that Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. So she had gone home and then came back, and it was like an unexpected trip back to the house, apparently. So if this was planned, was Kaylee not the target because she wasn't supposed to be there? You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm just speculating. I don't know. But yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, making things more complicated by people leaving. And I see where you're going. I also wonder, and we've speculated before, like, if this, let's say, Kaylee was the target, was it, I don't know, guys, I don't know. She is talking fast. Yeah, but I did speed it up a little bit. I hope it's okay still. A disgruntled student could do this so that the college reaps the loss of the students. Yeah, that's true. And I definitely see where you're going with. I think it only has to do with jealousy, Christy B said. That definitely huge possibility.
On call requested aid for an unconscious person, and goes on to say that multiple people talked to the 911 dispatcher on that phone, which drew a lot more questions. Even though they tried to clarify, it became a little bit more confusing as to why those roommates would call friends before calling 911. Well, I actually sat down in an interview with the PIO of the Idaho State Police today, Aaron Snell, and this is what he said about that.
Does it concern you that they call friends before calling 911?
So, I think really we have to take a step back, right? And again, talking about going down a whole rabbit hole, not looking at the criteria, it initially came in as a medical call. So, based on that, the roommates believed apparently that, the roommate, there was some sort of medical emergency. So that's what the initial call came in. When officers arrived, obviously that changed. And so, if we try and pick what we want to look at, then I think we'll miss the other information.
So yeah, just to go along with, and good morning, Diane, thanks for being here. Just to go along with what No Chains No More is saying, why would you call your friends over before 911? And then just like Aaron Snell just said, Idaho State Police communications officer, he said initially the 911 came in as a medical call. So if they called 911 for medical help, it still leaves you to question, like, why were friends called over first? I mean, even if they were just naive and just thought like, oh, wow, they're unconscious. I don't know, guys. I'm just very confused by that, because why unconscious and unresponsive are kind of interchangeable for 911 operators. And I have heard people say in groups and Reddit and all that, don't get hung up on too much of like the unconscious part, like in the 911 dispatch report. But this guy is saying that it was communicated to them too. So they are using the word unconscious, it seems to me. Like it's not just dispatch relaying it. That's how I'm taking it. Somebody literally on the phone was using the word unconscious. If you guys don't think that that's what it is, let me know, because I have heard people say the unconscious part is only coming from dispatch so that they could keep things on the low, not to tip off like a huge bloody scene, like for people on the scanner or whatever. But it seems to me like they're saying that the people on the phone were saying the word unconscious and that it wasn't just code through dispatch. I don't know. Yeah, and Ethan didn't live there either. So Kaylee wasn't supposed to be there. Ethan didn't live there. Those are key pieces to this puzzle of finding out who's the target in a way. And why wasn't the ambulance dispatched, especially when 911 caller said unconscious persons? The language of the 911 call, right? The roommates believe the second floor victim passed out and is unconscious. It's strange. Maddie was the target, perhaps. Yeah, I think it's still up in the air of who exactly it is.
Interesting point. He goes on. I ask him, are you worried about contaminating the scene? He says he has his faith and trust in his crime scene investigators, those that responded to the scene, to make sure that that will not happen.
So let's try to paint the picture here and the timeline of this. It's still not 100% clear, and obviously that might be on purpose by them, but there's other people there when that call for medical assistance is made. Is it clear the circumstances under which the friends showed up? Did they show up knowing there was a problem, or did they show up just because they were showing up? Like maybe the girls downstairs or young women downstairs woke up and called their friend and said, hey, what do you want to do today? Or they just showed up because they show up on Sunday, maybe to go to breakfast, brunch, whatever. Is that part clear yet?
That part's not clear. And the only thing that we know is this, what they said in this press release, that they summoned friends because they believed one of the second floor victims had passed out. So it sounds like, based on this, that they called friends to help them with the second floor victim who they thought had passed out, Vinny. But that's all we're getting as of right now.
Mary runs a growing e-commerce apparel store on Shopify.
That's there's a lot to unpack here. All right, Chanley Painter's with us, folks, and we're doing this all night for the next 2 hours, plus our breaking news out of Georgia. Let me bring in my guests to join this conversation. In Columbia, South Carolina, retired medical examiner, forensic pathologist, former law enforcement officer, Dr. Michelle Dupree is with us. In Salt Lake City, Utah, private investigator Jason Jensen, and in Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, and columnist of Inside the Criminal Mind, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Great to see everyone. Dr. Dupree, let me start with you first. It seems that the friends, the roommates, didn't necessarily realize what was going on here, that maybe their roommate had been passed out, which in college, kind of common, but it takes me to a different place. What do you think it could potentially look like? Is it possible that it wouldn't be obvious someone was stabbed to death multiple times? Would the blood go in a place where it wasn't so obvious that someone was in distress from being stabbed to death?
Oh, very, very good questions, Vinny. And yes, I think that's it's a yes to both of those questions. Stabbing is very up close and personal. And if these people were caught off guard, perhaps they were asleep, at least.
Just to touch on Seattle Ryan's comment here, he said, I wonder if there has been any suspensions, expulsions, or major disciplinary action taken against any student recently. All I know is in the last stream, we had talked about how, I guess, some website for the fraternity or something has been taken down, or posts have been removed dating all the way back to 2018 or something. I don't know. I can't remember the exact details, but we touched on it. So I never even followed that up, but maybe someone in chat has.
Some of them were asleep. They wouldn't make noise. It was a 3-story house. So it would not be uncommon, I think, to imagine that they did not hear anything.
But how about the blood? They wake up in the morning and they go upstairs and they see someone passed out. You're looking at someone who's passed out. It wouldn't be obvious that they've been stabbed to death? Was it possible that it wouldn't be a bloody scene?
It probably was a bloody scene, but it may have not been a bloody scene right where that person was. If they were stabbed in a bed, for example, the bed would absorb most of it. If they were face down, again, they may not see that blood. And again, it's not something that you expect. The most common thing you expect is that someone's probably just passed out. And so not seeing the blood, I'm not surprised by that.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, are you surprised? Someone wakes up in the morning, you don't expect to find your roommate stabbed to death, or 4 of your roommates stabbed to death, especially since you slept through the night and you didn't hear anything. Is it possible that they wouldn't perceive what was actually in front of them?
I think there is something fishy with those 2 survivors. First of all, they were apparently on the 1st floor, and the attacker or attackers went up to the 2nd and 3rd floor. And so, in other words, they would have had to have passed the rooms where.
Well, not necessarily. Depends where you enter. It's a strange house. There's a sliding door on that second level that we're going to talk about more tonight. But
yes, okay. But the police, people have been describing this as incredibly the worst bloody or the bloodiest scene that I've ever seen. You know, they've been describing this the scene of the four victims as being so bloody. So it doesn't really make sense to me that that this person would have thought that the person was just unconscious. And even if they did, why do you call your friends instead of calling for medical help, calling 911 right away?
Jason Jensen, your thoughts about this issue, because this is significant. This is where the investigation actually begins, with this first call and the first people to notice the victims of the case.
Right. Well, I've seen plenty of cases where there was an anterior injury where they then landed on their back, and so they bled into their chest cavity rather than externally. So if the body was lying in that scenario, then it's entirely possible that they didn't see a large volume of blood and assumed that they were laying in the hallway like they passed out. So unless we know the exact situation of the victim, how they were, laid out in the scene, we can just assume there's nothing too nefarious about that. There's something that did not trigger a response to law enforcement about that. Otherwise, they would have investigated the roommates a little bit more thoroughly, or the friends. I think it just happened to be one where these are untrained college students, and they didn't realize what they were looking at when they saw somebody non-responsive to some kind of, attempts to wake them up.
Okay, guests are staying with us this entire hour. And when we come back, Chanley Painter, again, live in Idaho, is going to take us around the home. How could someone, the killer, get in and escape from this scene? And what are the different ways? Where could they park a car? Where could they walk in? We'll take a look at that very closely. Plus, coming up next hour. In Moscow, Idaho, the search for a killer continues as the state and local police join forces with the FBI to continue to search for who is responsible for the horrific stabbing murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Tonight, we are asking the important questions. What is the timeline?
On the evening of November 12th, Ethan and Xana attended a party here at the Sigma Chi fraternity home. At 10 p.m. on the other side of campus, Kaylee and Maddie are seen together here at the Corner Club in downtown Moscow.
0095.
There's a look at some of the investigators at the scene of the murder of the 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho. Still with us at the scene, Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who has been there on the ground speaking to everyone who will talk. Chanley, what's new? What sort of information?
I would chase them down the road.
Exactly. What sort of information did you find out today?
Well, as soon as I arrived to the home here, I noticed they expanded this crime scene to an area you and I have been talking extensively about, Vinny, and that's what's behind this home, this 3-level home. There's a parking lot adjacent to an apartment building that you could pull up and park, and you can see directly to the back of this house. Well, they expanded that crime scene tape right there to block off that portion of.
Hello, Punk Scene, everyone who has joined us. Lulu Chu said, good morning, Amber and Chad. I saw the part of the 2 roommates. I saw the part of the other 2 roommates where they were residing was an addition to the home. So the insulation may have made it hard for them to hear. Yeah, I think that's the conclusion that we've kind of determined too. Definitely agree there. And yes, thank you to all the moderators. Thank you all for being here.
This back parking lot, and they spent a lot of the day, the investigators, that team that you just saw on my cell phone video, exploring this parking lot area, the grassy area, and the hill that leads down into the backyard and towards that a sliding door into the home. They would actually kind of shuffle with their feet through the grass. They would kneel down and just stare in the direction of the home. They would point in the direction of the home. And at one point they were seen walking and then running up and down the hill, like what path would be easier access. It was really interesting to see. And I, of course, asked, then they said they were just trying to broaden the scene. I also asked the Idaho State Police Communications Director, Aaron Snell, about it. He said that they're just trying to look at things from a different perspective and see if what they find in that area matches or confirms what they already sort of know, but tight-lipped as far as if they found anything or if they just wanted to keep us a little bit out of their way, Vinny.
Well, let's do this. If you can, because I know you're out there all day long and you're looking at this thing from all different angles. You're on the ground there. Can you sort of take us for a tour of the area around the house so we could have a better understanding of how someone could get into the house and get out of this crime scene?
Absolutely. Well, of course, it's dark now, as you can see, but earlier today, we took some key video around the home. We're going to start with what's to my immediate right. There's a 2-building apartment complex, and it's just steps, a couple steps from this home. And again, like I've told you, we're on a dead-end street. The street comes in front of this home and then around this apartment complex parking area and then back out to a main road. So here's what it looks like from our camera. So if you're standing at this apartment complex, maybe at the window of the first neighbor here to my right, this is what you kind of can see of the home. You can see there's lots of cars parked there because media here, but you can see the entire side of the home up close. Now, if you move to kind of back towards the front of the home to my left side, we're surrounded by multi-level, multi-residence type homes in this area. And we also took a view from that angle as well. So there's a
I think this is a good visual of the neighborhood. So I definitely want to make sure that I screenshot this for a visual. It gives a good aerial view for sure. Yes, the bottom floor is offset from the upper floors. Yep. And yes, hello and welcome everyone joining us. Good morning, everyone.
the blue house highlighted there on the map, as you can see. And then we also have the video. Before our photographer stood there, here's what you can see of the crime scene from that angle as well. You can see the blue house is towards the front. You see the victim's vehicles, the police cars, the windows on all 3 levels. Some don't have window coverings. And then another angle we wanted to show our viewers is around the opposite side that we don't show a lot because there are houses that share kind of a yard. There's a fence that separates the yards of those houses highlighted in yellow to the backyard of the crime scene highlighted on this map. And our camera from that angle looked towards this crime scene. You could see a really good depiction of the 3 levels of this home. You can see how it's built into the side of the hill, how the second level would be where the glass sliding door window is right there, and then the 3rd level as well. And the back, the very back, I mean, it's wooded. There's a house on up the hill with a fence as well, with lots of foliage around in the area. But virtually, if I wanted to, but for the crime scene tape, walk in any direction except for the fenced-in backyards of the houses to my left, I could really go any direction, especially if I had on some, hiking boots, Vinny.
The fences, just to clarify what we just saw with the fencing there, does the fence prevent you from getting to the house where the murders took place, or do the fences prevent you from getting into the backyard of the neighboring houses?
Those are the fences for the neighboring house's backyard. The crime scene home does not have any fences. You can see where maybe there used to be a fence, but the only mark of the property line is that fence for the neighbor's house. There's no complete fence here around this home, Vinny. So you could walk all the way around it. It would prevent you from walking into the neighbor's private property.
That clarifies a lot for me. So there are many ways to access this home. You don't just have to pull up in front and go in the front door. You could be parking at a neighbor. You could park behind it. You could park at the apartment complex next door. You could live in the apartment complex next door and easily make your way onto the property, onto that concrete slab. And if the sliding doors are open, you can go right into the apartment on the 2nd floor.
You certainly can, Vinny. And I asked both the investigators here on the scene today because they were sort of charting out a path. Almost, I asked, have you determined a point of entry? How this person entered the home, and they told me no, they don't know how the person entered the home. And later I confirmed that with Mr. Snell. Let's take a listen.
You had previously reported no forced entry was noted in the home, the front door left open. Was the glass sliding door unlocked by chance?
What I can say is that it doesn't appear that there was any forced entry into this home on the night of the incident.
So it could have been unlocked.
Potentially.
It could have been unlocked, Vinny. That's why no forced entry, and that's maybe why they've really been focusing on the back of this house.
Wow. All right, let's bring back in our guests, get some reaction. Dr. Michelle Dupree, Jason Jensen, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Jason Jensen, I'll begin with you. It seems like from what Chanley just showed us, there are many different places you could park or many different places you could come from and get into that house. If that sliding door is opened, you don't even have to go to the front of the house where the front door is.
Right. In fact, if it was a neighbor, which oftentimes these cases are a neighbor, like a stalker, they could have walked all the way down, for a mile or more to get there if they knew where they were going, if they knew what the routine of these occupants were. So they could easily walk through the sliding glass door on the backside because, this is a multi-resident building where oftentimes they don't lock in sleepy towns like Moscow, Idaho.
Let me ask you, Dr. Carol Lieberman, couple different ways, right? It could be someone who is stalking and waiting for the moment to pounce. this doesn't strike me as a place where someone would randomly come across this house and say, oh, I think I'll just walk into this house. So the fact that they keep saying targeted, the more we explore, the more sense that makes to me that at a minimum, there was some target of this home.
Yes. Now, one of the interesting things is that one of the girls, Kaylee, had posted on Instagram a picture of the four of them. And she said, one lucky girl to be surrounded by these three people every day. Now, if they were targeting her, this would be a way to get to not only target her or to get back at her, but to kill all four of them. I don't know. That's just one extraneous or one thought. I mean, there's so many different
That is interesting that she did make that post saying, so lucky to be surrounded by these people. And then those people end up dead too. Like, was somebody seeing her social media and like just added fuel to the fire of like being jealous about them? Or, just, I don't know. That is strange that, she made that Instagram post with that picture and said that comment about being so lucky to be surrounded by them,
possibilities. They've already ruled out, however, the driver that drove them to their home, and they're ruling out. Another interesting aspect is calling Jack, the boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, who the families are saying could not have done anything. But it's interesting to wonder, the two girls called him just not that long before they were attacked, and so you wonder, was it because they saw something, somebody following them, and they thought he could come help, or did they think that he knew this person and he could talk to them and tell them not to hurt them? These are two little bits that seem like interesting paths to follow.
Absolutely. All right. We've got more to get to tonight on the program. Number one, we've got breaking news out of Georgia. We've got an arrest in the case involving a missing toddler, Quentin Simon, his mother arrested today. Julie Janae will join us.
There were stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students.
AdRoll's cross-channel retargeting keeps shoppers on the path to purchase with
appear that it would be defensive wounds.
Live from Idaho. Don't go anywhere.
Now.
There were stab wounds on the hands of at least one of the students that make it appear that it would be defensive wounds.
At least one of them? What does that even mean? Stab wounds at least one of the victims. But I'm telling you, before we've heard them say multiple victims. So now she's saying at least one. I can't. Are you guys confused by this too?
That's the coroner describing some of the wounds of one of the victims in the University of Idaho stabbing case. 4 students murdered inside their off-campus home, but barely off-campus. I mean, campus is like 1 block away. I want you to take a listen. This is Captain Lanier here talking about the autopsies.
We know that the autopsies confirmed the identity of the 4 victims, determined the cause and manner of death as a homicide by stabbing, and determined that it was likely all 4 victims were asleep during the attack. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault.
Not a lot of information, but some very important information when you're trying to profile who could have done this. Shanley Painter, Court TV legal correspondent, still with us out in Moscow, Idaho. Was there any indication from investigators about knowing or understanding the order in which the victims were killed, where they were located in the house precisely?
Well, we know 2 were on the 2nd floor, 2 were on the 3rd floor, Vinny, and they aren't revealing the order or who or which of the 4 may have had defensive wounds. I tried to, again, follow up with the interview I had with the PIO of the Idaho State Police. He would not say, he said they're not revealing that information. He just said there was evidence from the coroner and the autopsy of defensive type of wounds. But, I told you also the house behind me, when we were here Friday night, you remember seeing flashes in certain rooms, Vinny, on the 2nd floor. It seems to be like there are 2 different rooms, well, the 2nd floor where victims were located, and maybe one on the middle third floor window for that. So I am assuming that the Kaylee and Maddie were on the second floor and Ethan and Xana were on the third floor. But that's just me based on what I've been observing here. They won't officially say.
Then that would make some sense if Ethan and Xana are a couple and the other two have their own rooms. I want to bring Dr. Michelle Dupree back in, retired medical examiner. A couple of questions about what we've learned about all this. How can you tell if they were asleep when they were murdered? Is there any sort of medical way you would be able to determine that through autopsy?
There's really not a way to tell medically whether they were asleep or not. The best way is to surmise that from the injuries themselves. The person who had, or persons who had defensive wounds obviously would have been awake. If there were no defensive wounds, then it would be reasonable to suspect that they were asleep.
Now, what do we, and this is tough. I know this is difficult information, but I think it's important because it's to understand how this could happen. You're asleep, you get stabbed. Is someone going to make noise? Are they going to feel pain? And again, the statements are that each victim was stabbed multiple times.
And that's an excellent question. At first, a stab wound will determine that. If the stab wound is in an essential location, directly in the heart, perhaps even in the lungs or in the neck, then that person may not make very much of a sound. The subsequent wounds then, of course, would not make any sounds. If they were stabbed in the arm or the leg first, then yes, you would expect them to make a sound and even to fight back.
And in terms of pain, is there any way to ascertain? And I'm sitting here hoping that if you're in your sleep that you're not going to feel that, but I don't know if that's true.
No, just being asleep will not prevent you from feeling pain. Sharp force injuries are painful. And again, depending on where that sharp force injury occurs, there'll be more or less pain, but there's definitely pain involved.
Let's get back to the defensive wounds. Would the person have to be fully awake, or could you kind of be a little groggy and you get that first stab wound that's not fatal, and then your body sort of reacts before you're even conscious of what's really happening?
Yes, that is absolutely entirely possible. You may be groggy, you may be slowed reactions for several reasons. And so, yes, you could do that. And the other thing is that, again, this is very up close and personal. And so once that first stab wound happens, that person is likely to try and fight back if that was not a fatal wound to begin with.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, let me ask you about something that Captain Lanier said. There was no sign of sexual assault. Should we still be looking at sex offenders in the area, even though no one was apparently sexually assaulted in this attack? Or what other type of person are we looking for?
Well, I wouldn't rule anyone out at this point, but one thing that is sort of obvious is that these four students would have, the girls were very attractive, wholesome. The boy, they were all very active in the school. They were people that other students or people who knew them or saw them could have been very jealous of them. And whether it's a spurned lover for one of the girls, or whether it's just, somebody who an incel perhaps. I don't think, it's good to know that there wasn't any sexual assault. That's when the parents and families can at least be comforted by that. But I don't think that necessarily rules somebody out, other than that it was for a different motive than to sexually assault them.
All right, Jason Jensen, I want you to take a look at what I'm putting on the screen right now. This is from the Idaho Statesman report from November 20th. Scott Jute, general manager of Moscow Building Supply, told the Idaho Statesman that police have visited the store more than once to ask whether the retailer sold anyone K-Bar brand knives, which are also known as K-Bar knives. They were specifically asking whether or not we carry K-Bar style knives, which we do not. Jut said in an interview, if we did, we could have reviewed surveillance footage, but it wasn't something I could help them with. Jason Jensen, I think we have a picture of the type of knife that was being asked about. Do you know anything about these types of knives and who would have them, who would carry them?
Okay, guys, I need to wrap it up. Got to get going and get the little one, but pretty much they're going to talk about like people who are familiar with hunting or military would have that knife. Everything we've kind of already talked about. What I do want to kind of end things on, which kind of goes with the title of the stream referring to the 911 call, is, I seen somebody in chat and it just is making my head spin too. Like, why would the roommate have somebody else call 911 like on their phone? Like everybody, like you said in chat, hello, Kent. Everyone has their own phone. So why wouldn't the roommate have just called themselves, or why wouldn't the person who used the other roommate's phone just use their own phone? It's like, it makes me wonder if there was there sort of like an argument but amongst them, like you call, no, you call, or you know what I mean? Like why would it take somebody to hand somebody else a phone? Like there should be, I don't know, guys. Ashley's agreeing doesn't make sense. I'm just wondering like why the phone was handed off to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like why the roommate just didn't call. I'm very confused by that. Maybe it's pure shock, like Pam said. Allison, what is going on with this glove? I've seen everyone in chat mentioning it. What is going on? Can't believe the fact that Chris McDonough found a glove. I need to watch his reporting there. I'd seen that he was there, but I was busy watching Duty Ron. But okay, Ashley Oakes is saying Chris M found a glove. Okay, Lisa agrees, doesn't make sense. Candy Smith is speculating things were chaotic. SRB says bothers me too. Panic attack, maybe. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of explanations. I'm just curious, like, what the actual one is. I'm just, curiosity killed the cat, you know? But I don't know, guys. This is crazy. Okay, I will definitely watch the interview room, but I got things to do, and CDT is going live. I believe she said around noon Eastern time. So please join us over there. I will be in chat moderating, and I just want to thank my moderators here extra much, guys. So thank you so much. A winter glove, Ashley Oak says. Okay. I mean, again, just more rumors and speculation and all that. I'm sure he handed it in. Yeah, exactly. Could have been a random glove. But either way, I'm going to check it out. Could be something, could be nothing, just like the Mustang talk we were talking about and all of that. There's just a lot of stuff going on. So I don't know. Christy B is speculating the 2 surviving roommates. No, I don't know. And why did multiple people have to speak with Dispatch 911? That was claimed. Yeah, like I get it. There's, hysteria and all that, but why multiple people had to get on the phone? I don't know. I'm just very curious about all that. But again, guys, thank you so much for being here. Please hit the like on your way out. I will see you in CDT's live stream later. And obviously check back here for more live streams and updates on cases. Obviously, we are still following the Delphi updates and all that. So, and I'm still working on my Chris Watts uncensored documentary, which will include the whole case, everything relating to the family, and then before and after the murders. I'm working on that documentary still. So that'll be coming out in December. Check out my other documentaries if you guys haven't already done so. Got Gabby Petito, Kurt Cobain death investigation, and a bunch of other ones. So check them out. We'll talk soon, and I will see you all very soon. Just repeating myself, an awkward goodbye. So hit the like button. Bye, guys.